And without further ado, I will turn the floor over. You are very welcome. Oh, yes.
Hello, I am Jerusha Washington. This will be brief. I have stage fright. I don't like talking in front of people. I am the chairman for the Emerging Leaders Committee. And I was introduced to Fela Abioye through Naya, and he put on an amazing presentation about career development for Sun Life. And I was like, you know what, why not have him come back and do something for Naya Kansas City? So he's here today to moderate a panel discussion about a roadmap to your career success. So I will turn it over to him and he'll introduce you to each of the panelists. They'll make their way up now as well.
Well, first, thank you all. It's my first time in Kansas City. I've not been out here before. I heard the breaking news about Travis Kelce. And the fact that there was a parade at the airport this week, I'm really happy to be here. But yeah, I met Jerusha, a few months ago, and gave me a lot of great energy. So a little bit about me, Fela Abioye. I work for the Hartford. I just celebrated 15 years. This past July, I work in our underwriting department, leading a team of production underwriters as a managing director. So, born and raised in Houston, Texas, Nigerian American. So, and it's a big part of kind of my upbringing. And Hartford has been really, really good to me over the years. And very involved in NIA. I joined NIA in 2016, 2017. Also serving the Houston board as well. Also as treasurer, also working with the emerging leaders team too. So emerging leaders conversation is something that's always really big for me, especially professional development as well. It's one of the reasons why I wrote this book, but just really, really excited to be here today. Excited to have this conversation with you. So a couple of things before we kind of ask everybody to come up. Just really wanted to be interactive, right? So, if it's just me asking all the questions and there's no engagement, you all, right? It doesn't really feel like it's a lot of engagement there. So if you have questions, please feel free to jump in, drop a note, raise your hand. For the folks that are on the call, please feel free to ask questions along. So, I guess go ahead and ask before you come up. You ready? Yeah.
Go on, man. Wherever.
I got the high chair.
Stay lower.
We don't need any injuries out here.
Right.
That worked out.
Never been so nervous to sit in a chair.
Don't lean back. Don't lean back.
Don't get lean. Okay.
Awesome.
I know, right?
So before we kind of jump in for introductions, we did want to poll the group here real quick and kind of get a sense of experience within the room, right? I think that helps with the relativity to conversation. So if you've been in the industry for less than, let's say, 5 years, show of hands. All right. 10 years or less, show of hands. Same for the folks that are on the phone if you want to respond to the link there. Okay, 15 years or less, show of hands. 20. 18. All right, 25 years or less. 30 years or less. 40 years or less.
35.
35. All right. That's awesome. That's awesome. Literally representation across. All right. So I think that's always welcome, right? Especially when you think about just the different levels of folks that you come to meet. So I guess we'll start here over on the end, man. Bob, if you want to maybe introduce yourself a little bit to folks.
Oh, thank you. So Bob Galino. I'm based out of St. Louis with the Hartford, and I'm 26 years with the Hartford. Spent 2 years with State Farm in their claim department in Central Illinois. Born and raised Chicago boy. I worked for the Hartford there, and then spent 9 years in Dallas, Texas, and then the last 15 years in St. Louis. So I have three. They're not little girls anymore. There was a day when I'd say I have three beautiful little girls. They're still beautiful, but they're 23, 22, and 18. One of them actually lives here in Kansas City, so she's in Overland Park. So it's nice to come this way. But so my job with the Hartford, I'm the division executive within our middle and large commercial group. So working with Fela, teams basically from Minnesota, Chicago, all the way down to Texas. So think Central Time Zone. And I've been in this role for about 5 years. I also have our multinational practice. So if you think about insureds that are US based, but have operations outside the US, whether it be in the UK or Brazil, we provide insurance for those folks through a network of about 90 carriers around the globe in about 200 countries. And so I have that business as well. And then we have a small branch in Canada where I have that group as well. So a few different hats, but born and raised really as an underwriter. I mean, that's where I spent most of my career, but it's good to be here. I appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
Awesome, man. I got to ask you a very important question. You spent time in Texas, St.
Oh.
Louis, Kansas
Oh,
City.
man.
So barbecue, clearly.
Oh. You know, it is for me, Q39 or Joe's.
There it
Hands
is.
down. Hands down. I know where I'm sitting right now. Party.
Awesome. All right. Janelle?
Hi, everyone. I'm Janelle Holmes. I'm the chapter president of NIA Greater Kansas City. Really happy to be on the panel today. I have been in the insurance industry for 17 years. I started with Progressive Insurance, worked there for 3 years handling auto claims. And I've been with my current employer for the last 14 years. Currently, I lead our networks and managed care line and work comp product, and my team is responsible for some of our vendor relationships. So managing our relationships with our network partners. We're also responsible for like our network of providers, our medical providers that our work comp injured employees are using, and then some of the regulatory things that go along with managing custom network plans and some of the responsibilities that we have to do in various states, California, Texas. But my team is spread out all over the country. I'm based here, but I have people in Nashville, Dallas, Hartford. So we are all over. But yeah, it has been quite an interesting journey for me in insurance. I'm sure we'll get into some of that with some of the questions.
Savannah?
So, good evening, everyone. I am Savannah Alfin. I am an account executive with Travelers Commercial Surety, or Bond. I am located here in Kansas City. However, my territory is the entire state of Arkansas. So I do travel quite a bit for work. I've been with the company for 8 years now, with one of those years being a summer internship before I took full work with Travelers. And I'm super honored to be on the panel. I've been with this Travelers the entire tenure of my career so far. Kind of crazy to think that we're going on 10 years. Time flies fast, but it's a great industry and continue to learn a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So first question, it's really for everybody. You know, curious, what inspired all of you to pursue a career in insurance? So anybody want to kick it off?
Sure. This is always an interesting question, right? People are always like, insurance, how did you choose insurance? I did not go to school, you know, probably like most of us, either in the room or on the phone, did not go to school for insurance or, you know, risk management or anything like that. I went to school for communications. And when I graduated, I was looking for a PR job. I moved to Kansas City after I graduated from college, and Kansas City is not exactly a PR hub. So I was a little challenged in finding a job in my desired field. I had a friend that worked at State Farm that said, why don't you consider a career in insurance? She had graduated a year or two before I did. I'm like, insurance? And so I looked at State Farm, but they didn't have an office here. But I found a job at Progressive. And so that is how I got into insurance. And 17 years later, here I am.
I wouldn't, like Janelle said, I don't think most people that are in the industry were inspired or always knew they wanted to go into insurance. I think a lot of us kind of fall into it. And that's how I got into the industry as well, too. So I got a summer internship the summer before my senior year in college. And at that time, I knew I wanted a paid internship, right? Broke college student, I don't want to work for free. And so I found the internship through the Travelers at the St. Louis office. And I just love what I was doing. I had no idea what the heck a bond was. I had no idea what underwriting was. But once I got into it and was just, my eyes just opened up and it's like, you know what? I actually like this. I like what I'm doing. I have a marketing background, so I studied in school. And so what I like is that it's not just in-house. I actually do get to get out, travel to Arkansas a lot. So I'm mixing that marketing background with the underwriting as well too. So yeah.
That's great. So mine's a similar path, and we're playing two truths and a lie. I'll tell you about, as a 5-year-old, I wanted to work in insurance, and that would not be true. In all sincerity. So in college, the school I went to had a risk management program, and my sophomore year, I needed a business elective. I was a general business with an accounting focus, and I didn't really love accounting. And I took an introduction to risk management class, and it clicked. And found the material extremely interesting. Met other people in the business. Had a great professor, so that helped. And one of my really good buddies, a fraternity brother of mine, his dad was a State Farm agent, and I saw the life they had. And so I'm a blue collar kid from Chicago. First one in my family to go to college, and so again, you look up and you go, wow, that's something in the business world I could see myself doing. His personality felt similar to mine, and again, it was more financial driven than, if I'm honest about it, than anything else. And so I pursued that, and joining State Farm, I thought I would become an agent, and quickly realized I liked larger accounts, and so I wanted to do something different. So came to Hartford, always thought I would sell. And that was, that's where my focus really was. And I fell in love with underwriting. And then more importantly, I fell in love with leadership. And to be in an industry where you get to support people the way that we do as leaders, that was amazing. And then also in an industry that I feel like is really, from my perspective, the hidden gem of the business world. I mean, the impact that we make, the world does not operate without us. So you start there. I saw companies that gave back in their community in a way that I thought was pretty unique. And then I thought the people within the business were, again, a lot of great friends. And so it started with a class, and then motivated a little bit financially, and then really turned into a passion and something that I loved. And so, again, kind of gave it a chance, and here we are, and would not trade it for anything.
Awesome. So Bob, back to you a little bit. You've been doing this, right, for a little while, and I'm sure you've seen the evolution, right, of the industry. So I'm curious, how have you seen the insurance industry evolve from maybe where you first got in versus kind of where it is today?
And if I think about that, I'd probably go a couple of ways. I could go the obvious way of, when my first underwriting job, claims job, we had folks that typed policies. There's a whole department, a whole room of folks that put policies together and stapled them together. And if you needed to find out if a 1995 Toyota Camry was on the policy, you requested the file, and maybe it came back in a week, and you could call your agent back and let him know. And so you think about from that to today, where we're talking about AI and the impact that technology is going to have. I think that's the obvious. But I'll take it more the people and the cultural side of it. Even back then, as someone that didn't have an uncle or a mom or I was unique to get into the business without some attachment to it. And today I look and I meet people, and part of it's been companies have invested. And if you look at, there's a cliff of talent that I see just because of the aging of our population within the business. And so the need to go out and recruit and find talent in different parts of society, I think, is just so important for us to continue to be the industry that we want to be, and the resources that companies like Hartford and like Travelers have put behind that, I think has, from my perspective, brought so much amazing talent that I think the talent level today is much higher than it was when I started. And I think that's just a product of a lot of focus and a lot of attention and a lot of investment. And so that part's the fun part, and I think makes it, where I'll retire in this business. And it's really because of the people at the end of the day. So technology advances it's been just game changing. But more importantly, I think that's because the talent advancements and the talent attraction has been equally strong. And so that part's been fun for me.
I tend to agree. I mean, all of you shared your own experiences about getting into the industry, right? But I think now we're kind of in an age where a lot of folks are choosing insurance, right? A lot more often than we normally see, right?
Sure.
And they're bringing a lot more talent because that's their hyper focus even at an earlier age. And so that's why things like Naya are so important, right? To help go and attract those folks, right? To be able to bring them to the industry that may not know that this is a great career. So, I know for myself, insurance was not on my mind whatsoever, but it's been one of the best career decisions that I could have ever made, right? So I love that part. So I want to talk a little bit about branding. And Janelle, they say when you walk into a room, right, you kind of feel the room, right, before you get there, right? And so your brand precedes you, right? It's often is what's said. Curious, what intentional steps have you throughout your career to kind of help shape your personal and professional brand?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, right? Because I think you're absolutely right that your brand precedes you. And so I've always thought, what do I want my brand to say about me before I enter the room, before I'm there? What do I want other people to say about me, about my work ethic, about my personality, how am I to work with? I think for me, I, from the beginning, wanted to always feel like I could be myself. So authenticity for me is really important and a big part of my brand. I feel like I always want to show up as myself. You hear a lot of companies talk about, bringing your whole self to work or being unapologetically you. But sometimes it can feel challenging to really embody that. So I try to be intentional about not only doing that for myself, I want to show up as me every day because I want to feel comfortable in my own skin, but just leaving a lasting impression and setting an example for other people. As a leader in my organization, I want the people that report to me, or even my peers, to feel like they can show up and be themselves. So it's also about setting that example. In fact, I just had a young lady pay a compliment to me today. I didn't even know, it's funny when you hear people say you never know who's watching you. I did not know that this individual had been watching me. I went to our Nashville office and I spoke with her today. She said, "Weren't you in our office a couple months ago?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I was." She was like, "I remember seeing you and just your, how you carried yourself and this and that." It was a wonderful compliment. And it was just a testament of what I try to do is just to show up as myself and encourage other people to show up in that same way.
No, that's awesome. Great compliment, right? So why intentionality is so key, right? Just how you show up, just the little things, 'cause it makes such a big impact. So it's awesome. Um, Savannah, I want to talk a little bit about fear, right? So we got a long time to work, and sometimes we get held back by certain things, right? Want to make career moves, want to make changes in our career, but it's like, I've been doing this for a while. Fear of the unknown. There's a lot of things that sometimes hold us back from taking opportunities on. So I'm curious of you, maybe give me maybe one fear that you had to overcome in your career so far.
Perfect timing for this question. So I'm actually
Okay.
in the process of overcoming a fear of mine. And it wasn't really, I'd say at this point, when you have so many years in the game, we know what our strengths and we know what our weaknesses are, right? So it was more so of a fear of exposing one of my weaknesses that I know is a weakness, right? So you don't want anyone to know that you're not good at something, right? You want to come off as if you can do anything. You give me a task, yes, I'll do it, I'll figure it out, right? But you never want to show weakness or show someone that you're not as great in a certain area. So there was a fear of showing a weakness in an area that held me back for 3 years. I had an opportunity come up or a promotion come up that they said, "Hey, we think you'd be great for this promotion. Do you want it?" knowing that that promotion was going to expose one of my personal weaknesses that I know, right? When it comes to underwriting, of course, you have to do financial analysis, right? Just like you not the best at accounting, especially when it comes to reading audits, stuff like that. I'm used to love credit-based underwriting, all that. So in that current position, I was doing pretty much anything from $1 million below, right? The new promotion, I have to do more financial underwriting, analysis, dealing with larger accounts, anything over $1 million. I knew this, and so I said no. Turn it down. They hired 2 people in that role, and then comes back around. I said, you know what? I'm not gonna say no this time, right? I said, no, what? Give me a shot. Give me an account. Let's see how I do. I do the account, and then I go to just so I happen to go to home office and present to a home office person. Y'all, I had no idea what I was saying. I was supposed to meet with my manager and go over my analysis with him before I went to home office. Things came up that never happened. So I go up there and I'm just like sweating bullets. I'm like, I don't know if this is correct. What did I do? I have no idea what I'm doing. Go in there, do my presentation. And once it was over, I was like, you know what? It's over. You did what you had to do, right? Come back to the area. I get a phone call from my manager. He's like, hey, the home office person you presented to called me. And I was like, about what? What they call you about? And so basically, long story short, that home office person called my manager and told him that I did a great job. And he was like, why is she not an AE? Like, why isn't she doing this on a daily basis? Like she did so great. And it was that external confirmation of someone who I don't have no daily contact with, my first time ever meeting this person, and with him having that kind of confidence in me is what basically told myself, girl, what are you doing? Take the job, take the promotion, don't say no. But all because of I was afraid of exposing what I thought was a weakness of mine. Held me back 3 years, you guys. 3 years. I could have been doing this months ago, probably even been further along in my career if I would have just stepped out and actually said, you know what? I guess it's a weakness of mine, but I'm going to work towards making that weakness one of my strengths. Or, yep, it's a weakness of mine. Instead of being afraid of showing this to other people, why don't I show it to other people and allow them to help me fix that where it's not a weakness? So I'm glad I finally took that step, made that promotion. And now I can say I'm still in the process of overcoming it, but I am currently transitioning that weakness into a strength 3 years later.
Can we get
Can
Savannah,
I comment on that? Just real quick. And thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And I'm so proud of you. But I just want to call out how women, especially women of color, we do that to ourselves so much, where we may see our male counterparts look at a job posting and they're like, oh, I got, 5 out of 10 of the criteria. Oh, I'm doing, I'm good, right? We'll look at it and be like, oh, I got 8 out of 10. I can't apply because I only need 8 of, you know what I mean? So that was such a perfect story for you to share with everyone, and just an example of don't stop yourself from applying for that job that you want because you feel like you don't check all of the boxes. And also don't wait for that external validation, for someone else to tell you that you're good enough for something. Know that you already have that within yourself and go for the thing, because those 2 other people that you said that got the job 3 years ago, I guarantee you probably were more qualified than they were. So sometimes, we are our own barrier, our own, obstacle to getting those things. So
We are our own worst critic. Well, me definitely. I criticize, we criticize ourselves. I could have done this better, I could have done that. And like you said, somebody else. And honestly, the fact that my own manager brought it to me those 3 years ago should have been my external confidence booster then, like saying, hey, if he didn't think you were qualified for it, he wouldn't have brought it to you. But I'm like, he knows me. I talk to him every day. Somebody not knowing who I am saying this, a little bit different, but yeah, it was my fault. It was my fault.
It was just a learning experience, that's all.
Awesome. No, I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you, Janelle, for commenting on that. I think that's so important, right? I think we can all, you know, relate to that, right? At some point of our lives, we've had some form of fear holding us back from doing something, you know? And so whether it's in our mind or it's real, whatever the case may be, but I applaud you, Savannah, honestly, for overcoming that and being able to move forward. So, so I love that. Love that. So staying on you, Savannah, I want to talk a little bit about relationships. Okay. How has relationship building influenced your career thus far or trajectory?
I would say for one, relationship building has helped when it comes to learning. So I came into the industry where pretty much I was the youngest person on my team. So if all these people are like above me that have, I mean, basically they've been in the industry for as long as I've been alive. I mean, basically. And it's been amazing. And I would say like I've had, of course, other opportunities to like go elsewhere. But the relationships that I've built just on my team alone has helped me when it comes to like confidence boosts in certain areas. I feel super confident that I can go to any one of my teammates and ask them a question on something and not feel like, oh, it's a stupid question. I feel like when it comes to me navigating where I want to go, what pathways I want to go, the relationships that I have built within my organization or even within like other people who are part of other companies as well too, it's helped me kind of envision where I want to go. So building those relationships, networking with other people, hearing how did they get into the industry? Did they start in one department and now they're in another department? How did they make that transition? Why did they make that transition? I believe that those relationships can not only help you make those moves and jumps that you want to make, but they can also help you make the decision on, do I really want to make that move? And I believe having someone who is truly in your corner and has your best interests to help guide you. Doesn't matter if it's somebody you're could be competing against or someone who's a level above you, someone who's a level below you. Just having someone you can truly trust to help give you that insight into kind of where you're going is very, very important when it comes to navigating or laying down your path as far as how and where you want to go in the industry. Connect everywhere with everyone, not just in your organization, but other organizations and companies too.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. I think relationships matter so much, right? I mean, we talk all the time, especially within NIA organization about networking, right? But I think the difference between networking and relationship building, to me, it's two different things, right? So walking up to someone, shaking hands, doing slight introductions and walking away to never meet again until maybe the next conference, that's not really relationship building, right? Relationship is, I know you, right? We have a connection. I know about you. I know about your family. I know what you do, right? And so it's a different level of connection building. So when we think about progressing within our careers, right, that's the kind of relationship that we want. We want to work with people that we know, that we can relate to, that we have something in common, right? So I think it's so important to really make that distinction because we use that word a lot, but I think sometimes it gets blurred a little bit. So, yeah. Janelle, talk about skills, right? I mean, you've had a really good, career, and curious, what skills and qualities do you believe are essential, right, for your career to be successful as it's been?
I think being a continuous learner has really served me. I'm curious. I just like knowing random things. So I think, and I think this could serve anyone. This has served me personally, but I think being open to learning new things. I think so often, especially within an industry like insurance, insurance sometimes has the kind of you kind of think of it as being an old industry. It kind of has a reputation of being old and stuffy and traditional. And sometimes we can sometimes seem like we're stuck in our ways. So I think not getting stuck in this is the way something has always been done. So being willing and able to evolve, to grow. You talked about, Bob, a lot about how the industry has evolved just since, you've been navigating your career. And I think that that's something I'm always willing to, let's try something different, let's be willing to learn something new. And especially when you lead people, I think that it's so important to not coming in like you know everything. You have to be willing to learn something from the people that are on your team as well. Someone that just walked in the door might be able to teach you something just as much as someone that has been there at the company for 30 years. So I think it's just about being open. I also try to encourage my team to be vocal about their thoughts and their opinions. So my idea or my way is not the only way. And even if I have an opinion about something, I will challenge my folks to change my mind. I say, well, this is what I think. And they will say, well, I think this. And I say, oh, okay, convince me. So we will have open dialogues, so I think it's just about being willing to learn, being curious, being open to new things. I think those are the skills that have served me the most.
Awesome. So I heard being a continuous learner, being open, being vocal, taking the initiative, right? Maybe these are things we teach our children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somehow they continue to translate right in the workplace.
But sometimes we lose that. I think you mentioned children, we encourage our kids to be creative, right? But somehow from childhood to adulthood, sometimes we lose that creativity. And it actually starts with our children. So we tell them to be creative and all of that, but then we tell them color inside the lines, sit in a neat circle, walk in this line, raise your hand to speak. We start structuring them young. And so when you get early or when you get later in your career and you become an adult, sometimes it's easy to fall into that. This is the way it's supposed to be done. We fall into that trap of not wanting to speak up or say something to our leaders because, a lot of the organizations, especially in insurance, are very hierarchical. And so it's like, that's not my place to say something, so we have kind of conditioned ourselves to not be innovative, to not be creative, to not speak up. It starts with our children, so it can be hard, it can be difficult to do, I guess was my point. Mhm.
We'll have it. So
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm.
Awesome. Bob, I want to talk a little bit about risk taking. Curious, man. Like, what's been the biggest risk you feel like you've taken in your career? Kind of learn through that experience.
Sure. And there's a number of risks, maybe not the big, maybe not the biggest risk. Moving my family for me is first. So we were 20 minutes from grandparents. I became the third favorite son-in-law. There's only two of us. It was a real thing, but that was, again, away from family, kind of on our own. That was a big risk, but I think professional risks, fellas. Last year in June, we were on vacation. I had me and my three daughters. We were down in Florida, and my boss called me, and the leader that was running our multinational practice had left to go to. He retired and took another job, but that's a whole other story. And she called and said, "Hey, we'd like for you to take this on. Do your other job, but take this on as well." And I'm a 26-year domestic underwriter. I know the product. I could, sell it, but I don't know how to underwrite it. I have zero relationships in that space. I know the team a little bit because they were business partners, but it was a situation where Fela and I we're blessed with a really good leadership team that have had a track record of just tremendous results. Things are going extremely well. Staying in that lane and just keeping focused on what we were doing is the easy answer. And just respectfully saying no. There's going to be some overseas travel, some other things that sound fun, but also take me away from family. But I also looked at it and said, the company is going in a direction where we want to be more global. Here's a chance for me to test something out and see, is my leadership style, does that work in an area that I know very little about? And I said, yes. And it was one, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? But I tell you, it has been for in the last year, and we've done a lot of listening. We're starting to make some changes now a year later. The first year for me was really listen, learn, start with talent, meet the people, focus on the culture, focus on the way that we interact with our business partners a little bit different. And now we're in a place where we're starting to actually make some structural changes and some operational changes. The business started about 7 years ago. And I always joke with them. I'm like, we were like the MacGyver group of, within a large organization like the Hartford with all the tools, we really weren't. So it was a little bit of bubble gum and a bobby pin, and you're trying to make things work. And I'm like, okay, we're not grown up for us to go, and we should be 3 times the size for us to do that. We need structure. We need some changes. And we're in this place now of starting to implement some of those changes and excited about that. But there was fear, and it was a little bit of, were we successful? And we were successful because we have a great team, but would my leadership style play? Would it work? Am I fortunate to have great teammates and what I'm doing today? Yes. But would this style translate? And I was worried if it doesn't, I'm going to be exposed. And I still have 50 more years to work. So I could stay and do the easy thing with what I was doing. But that risk, it was validating in so many ways. It's been fun and invigorating in so many ways. Probably more travel than I would like. But that part, again, meeting new people, expanding my network but it took overcoming that fear. I sat in that living room in that Airbnb going, what the hell am I doing here? Do I really want to do this? And scared. I mean, here I am, a 49-year-old man that's been doing this a long time, I thought, geez, but it was scary. But I'm so thankful that I said yes. And been rewarding, and I'm really bullish about, I think, what the next 3 or 4 years will bring for me personally. I think it's going to bring to my teammates within this group, and I think to the broader organization, because it's going to make us that much stronger as we compete in the marketplace. And so have my fingerprints on that. I think it's, really exciting. And so, but it was a huge risk for me, just professionally.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, man. Since as you were walking us through that story, it made me think about Janelle's comment about, kids and teaching them to take chances and take risks and be creative. But then as we grow older and, more tenured in our career, we kind of start to pin down that, right? But that's where the real growth happens, right?
Sure.
Is sometimes in the risk taking. Calculated risk, of course, but still risk nonetheless, man. So I appreciate you sharing that. So before I continue, I want to pulse check if there's any questions from the audience or anyone else. And again, want this to be interactive. I can keep going here, but
I'll add
please,
something.
please.
I think with the future of insurance, we'll probably find ourselves needing to take more risk, or at least skill up in a couple of different skills. Just because you don't know how it's going to quite shape. You have a lot of technology coming in. I know for farmers, we're looking at how can we make more people flexible? Maybe you're over here for a little bit and then rotate you around to get you multi-skill. And just adding to the conversation of taking risks, getting out of your comfort zone. I think when you've been in the industry for so long, you just want to be that SME, that subject matter expert. I've done this, I know my stuff, I'm all that with this space. I think we're going to be disrupted. And so if you have those opportunities come up where you can I'm an HR plus a little bit of data analytics over there and a little something over here, jump at it. Even if it's a short sprint for a couple of months that you can take, add yourself to another team or just cross-functional project, just to make sure that you are flexible when the time comes, because companies expand in one space, but they may shrink in somewhere else. Just kind of looking around from that perspective, just making sure that you're prepared for whatever the future might have.
I love that skills conversation. And that's one that we've been talking a lot about with AI. And, if you think about the way technology plays and how so much work will be done by a computer, especially some of that very tactical work, which allow us to be, force us to be more critical thinkers. But I think so many of the soft skills, and it scares me having, teenagers now, 20 somethings who have spent a lot of time on their phones, not connecting. So I think the human connection, interpersonal skills, empathy, things of that nature, I think becomes so important. It allows you to be very portable and flexible to do that multifaceted kind of flexible work, to be able to do a few different things. And so I think the challenge for me personally, and I think challenge for all of the teams that I work with, is that of how can we work and continue to work on the soft skills. Young folks are mentor. It's put the phone down. We're gonna spend lunch. Let's be humans for 45 minutes and let's engage and learn about each other, learn our stories. That connection, I think, is really important. And again, it's going to become even more valuable, I think, in the next 15 or 20 years.
Being able to talk different departments, like, oh, I know a little bit enough, like workers' comp. I've never worked in workers' comp. I might need to just know enough to be able to, hey, I got a project, talent development project. Let me speak your language for a second, but I won't know that unless I put the effort into knowing what they do across the enterprise. So it's more of an enterprise thought of what more can you learn about where you work at.
Awesome. Awesome. So Bob, we'll stay with you a little bit, man. Talk about feedback, right? Most professionals can probably relate to receiving feedback that maybe they didn't like, maybe necessarily didn't agree with per se, right? Tough to receive. Maybe can you share an example when you received some feedback that maybe was really, really tough and how you handled it? So,
I talk about how the industry's changed, and you think back, if you go mid-90s, there were leaders that were very fear-based. I mean, this idea of servant leadership is a new thing, right? It's and you were in meetings where people would get fired in the meeting, and they'd come back for lunch and they were gone. It was a crazy environment, and my natural personality is a little pleased. Our background, there's some things there. Therapy's helped a bunch. My natural personality is a little bit of a pleaser, nice person. I pride myself on just being authentic. I am who I am. And there was a leader who ran as my job today, but he had the Western US, who said I was just too nice of a guy to be a leader in the Hartford organization. And that was his comment to me. And truly, I think, tried to block a couple of jobs for me. And I had an advocate who was in my corner and gave me a shot. And but I was always true to myself, and that was the part for me that I talked to my girl's, the kid's mom about. I am who I am, and I'm gonna be authentic. I'm gonna be honest, and if it's not working, we're gonna figure it out. So we're gonna make tough decisions, but I'm gonna do it in a way that is not going to be based on fear. It's going to be based on motivation. And if we can get you there, we're going to get you there. And if it's not going to work, we're going to find something else for you. And that may not be within the four walls of the Hartford, but it's going to be through care and love. And that's how we're going to lead. And I'm just going to be who I am. And honestly, 25 years later, 20 years of leadership later, I think I've grown as a leader. I've learned a lot of things, but that foundation, I don't think I've changed. And I would argue with Mark, who is that individual out in California, that we've done, I don't say his last name. Billboard stuff. But I would tell him, I said, we've done okay. And that part is the part, and I've been me. And that part, I put my head on my pillow. And but that's it. It's you know what? There's gonna be people that get feedback, and just because you get it, sometimes it is hard. And sometimes you do need to change. And that's, but that part is, it has to be for you, not because of somebody else. It's because you've taken some time with some introspection, do some soul searching, and just, is that feedback the right feedback? And if it's not, then you know what? Thank you very much. And you keep doing what you're doing. And that's okay. Because guess what? Not everyone's right. So one person you gotta, be proud is the person looking in the mirror. And so
no, man,
that's it.
I appreciate that,
Yep.
man. And just as you're describing things, the word that comes to mind is discernment, right? Discernment, right? Being able to receive feedback and knowing okay, is this for you? Right? But you got to be able to receive it. You know, regardless, good, bad, or different, you have to be able to receive it. And then what to do with it, right? That makes all the difference in the world. Right? How to respond to that, right? So,
Sure.
man. Awesome. Janelle, we'll talk a little bit about balance,
Mhm.
right? So, you know, how have you been able to balance the demands of career, personal responsibilities, community involvement, and just trying to quote unquote keep up with all the things? We talk all the time about work-life balance. I know that gets thrown around a lot, but I'm just really curious from your perspective on that.
I don't. If you ask Kathy that question about me, you know, she probably would say that I'm generally running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
Mhm.
But this is what I will say. I think that you can do whatever you want to do. And I think that sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't have time for this or I don't have time for that. I think that when you want to be a part of something or when you want to do something, you find ways to show up and to do those things. Even being a part of NIA, I mean, I'm the chapter president. I try to make everything, but do I make everything? I don't. But do I have a great vice president and a great board that help support me so that I can, you know, if I have to go to Hartford for work, you know, I'm like, well, guys, I'm not going to be in town. I have to fly out to Hartford. Or, you know, if I need to do something with my kids, I mean, I do those things. And I think you find those times. Someone actually mentioned to me, you know, we say work-life balance, but they phrased it as integration. So it's not about balancing because you won't always have, I kind of liken it to a relationship. When you're in a marriage, it's not always 50-50, you know, and I kind of liken that personal life, work life, you know, community, whatever, to sometimes I'm doing 10% over here. And, you know, I might be giving 60% over here. Like it's not always going to be equal, respectively, in the things that you are doing. And I think that's okay. I think sometimes that we are afraid of, you know, signing up for something, that committee or that ERG or whatever, because you're like, I don't have time to give this thing 100% of my time. And sometimes you don't have to. I am, you know, I work full time. I am a mother. I have 3 small kids. I am an active member of my sorority. I'm a part of the NAACP. You know, like I do these things. And do I go to every single thing for everybody? I do not. But do I try to be consistent and showing up and making sure that I'm contributing and that I'm being purposeful and what fuels me? Because I think that when you don't do the things that you say, oh, I wish I would have, you're not driving yourself. So, you know, even at work, could you go to work and just sit at that desk all day and just do your job and do your work and go home? You could. But would you be a better performer if you stepped away from your desk for an hour and you participated in that committee or that ERG or on that special project? Probably, right? Sometimes you have to do the things that, you know, if community service fuels you, then you have to do that thing that's going to help give some fulfillment for yourself, to help you feel fulfilled, to help you kind of have a place to kind of put those passions, and you are a better person. You are a better mom, a better wife, a better leader because you're able to tap into those different things.
Awesome. Savannah, we'll talk about office politics. So, I know, right? I'm hitting you some hard questions today, right? So I'm curious, how important is it to engage in the office politics, right? Is this something that can be avoidable, right? Like you say, you know what, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna do my job here from this time to this time, I'm going home. I'm not engaging anything else beyond that. What's your thoughts on that?
What comes to mind is a word that you used earlier, using discernment. You can't tell everybody your business. And you shouldn't tell everybody your business. Okay. But when it comes to office politics, I definitely say it's very important to one, be respectful. Come in, say good morning, say goodbye. Um, Depending on the relationship, you don't have to ask unless you if you want to about, what are you doing this weekend, things of that nature, keeping things respectful. I feel like as the more you're around those people, your teammates, you kind of start to pick up on the vibes, right? Who do you kind of get along with best? Um, who do you just tend to vibe with? It also depends on kind of where do you see yourself at that moment. Do you see yourself staying with that company and kind of working your way up the ladder, or is that just a temporary hold spot until you find something different, something new? I think that office politics can definitely get tricky, depending on if there's any like office drama, stuff like that. But I do think that office politics is important when it comes to building those relationships with your coworkers, when it comes to building those relationships, when it comes to, like, your higher level management, things of that nature as well too. But use discernment. It's very, very important. Cannot stress that enough. Um, and I think we all have a good idea of who you can and who you can't talk to, or who you can and who you can't share things with. If I tell one person this and such comes up and asks me about it, clearly you can't really trust that person to hold water. And also, like I said, just be very observant of your surroundings. I think when I first came in, Janelle can kind of talk about this. When I first came in, I was very quiet. I just observed and watched people. Now I'm kind of like Janelle in the office. I'm more of a social butterfly now, but again, so I use discernment to see, okay, when can I share things and who can I share things with, to kind of build those relationships.
Awesome. I know that can be sometimes, odd question as far as how to deal, right? I mean, personally, for me, I've always viewed office politics as the human element of work, right? Because you're just dealing with people, personalities, right? Everyone brings something different to the table. So whether you agree, don't agree, you get along, you don't get along, it's just a human element of work, right? And so how you interact in those spaces, right, is what kind of determines, right, how you interact. So, but I'm curious if anyone else has thoughts on that too.
I I think it's necessary. I think office politics are necessary. I think you're absolutely right that you do have to have some discernment in how you navigate the office politics. But I would say I have also seen where Fela, as you mentioned, someone coming in and you just come in and do your job, and I'm just, I'm here to work, and then I go home. How that can be detrimental to their career because they're not engaging with their peers. And so I've seen that happen on numerous occasions where people are like, I'm not going to the office happy hour. I've been in work with you all day. I don't really want to go spend my evening with you. But that is sometimes how those relationships are formed. So I think when we say office politics, sometimes that has a negative connotation. You think about people gossiping and being messy and that sort of thing. But if you kind of remove yourself entirely from that, you don't give people an opportunity to know who you are. And when people feel like they don't know you, then they feel like they can't trust you. So I think there has to be a balance. Office politics doesn't mean being messy. It doesn't mean engaging in office drama and all of that. And it just means that you make good choices and good decisions about where to insert yourself and when you need to remove yourself from a situation or a conversation. That's my take on it.
I think that
Very well said.
being observant and knowing when to participate and but you truly want to be authentic at the end of the day. I think that authenticity is important. And at the end of the day, business is about relationships. And so that part, if you remove yourself from that, you said it will hurt your career. And so, but there may be times where you go out for happy hour and it's when the happy hour is over and folks want to go to the next place, it's time to go home. And that's okay. So,
Yeah.
that part is,
Yeah.
but I agree when you asked the question, I thought more water. I was thinking more of the water cooler side. And for me, that part is to, it's like a lot of things in life. There are things where, I'd rather step out of because I'm not going to change that person's opinion. I'm not going to have I'm going to step out of this. I don't have to have an opinion. I have an opinion on everything, but I don't have to share it every time. And there's times to engage and times to not. And that being a little bit savvy there is important. I don't know if that makes sense. It's hard. That's my sister.
So only be respectful of time, because I can keep going here. So should I wrap up with maybe one last question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is for everyone. If you were to start your career over, what advice would you maybe go back and give yourself?
I can start. I would have took that promotion sooner. I would have just jumped right in, like, know what? Sure, I'll take it. Yeah, that's one thing I would redo.
Get out of claims as quick as possible.
Hey, now.
You got some claims people here.
I think that just that idea of taking risk and there's a path where it's a place we're extremely content and proud today. So that part feels good. But there's a couple of opportunities along the way that I still look back and go, I wish I would have leaned a little harder into that and taken that risk, raised my hand instead of pulling one of these, right? That who knows what that would have led to. And again, we're just being encouraging to that young self who maybe had I don't know, some fear, maybe a little imposter syndrome. Again, there's a little, come from different spots and you're sitting in a room, you're like, right, do I belong here? And am I worthy to be here? And that part of just having a little bit of confidence. And that, you didn't ask the question, but that's where I think mentors and having advocates and sponsorship and some of those things are so important. I think along the way, a little bit later, I found some people who were that and were those shoulders that were like, hey, you can do this. And I could be my authentic self in that room and ask those hard questions that maybe even my boss I couldn't at the time. And so that part of it, I wish I would have found a few of them earlier in my career because I think it could have created some doors or helped me open some doors that I avoided. So it's a risk. Long answer. Sorry.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I think I would have, number one, I would have joined NIA sooner. Okay, so starting over, I would have joined NIA sooner. But I think that I would have asked more questions at the beginning of my career. I think, and obviously you don't know what you don't know, but at the beginning of my career, I had no idea how diverse the insurance industry is. I had no idea of all of the opportunities, at that time when I came in, it's like, oh, like you sell insurance, like you're an agent, or a broker. It's like, or you're in claims or you're an underwriter. In my mind, that's what I knew. That was the, and I just didn't know how expansive. And so I wish that I would have been more aware earlier on in my career of all of the different career opportunities in the past, because I perhaps would have made some different decisions. I came in as an auto claims adjuster. So auto claims, that was my life. And I just didn't realize the different paths, the number of companies that are out there, I just didn't realize until much later. It wasn't until I came, to my current employer, which is much larger, than my former employer. And I realized, oh, wow, there are all of these things, Kathy is an attorney. Like at that time in my mind, I didn't know that insurance companies had attorneys, doctors, nurses, you got IT people, actuaries, so I just wish I would have asked more questions then and done more research into the opportunities at the beginning.
Awesome. I really appreciate y'all. I mean, I think just a great way to close, right? you think about exploring, taking risks, right? Overcoming fear. I think these are all things that we can all relate to. So just give it up for these folks, right? Close this out here.
Thank you. I think that that last point from Janelle is a good segue into our call to action. So the purpose of this was to kind of get some insight into how to be a professional and seeing that that road is so different for everybody. We want you to put together a vision board. You can do it electronically, like I did just on PowerPoint. If that is not your forte, you can make a list. Like, what do you see for yourself in the next 6 months? Build a network, do something different. In 1 to 3 years, what do you want to do? I'm going on sabbatical. But also, I would love to see some career progression. I've been in this current role. I've been in compliance for 10 years, and I've been in my current role for 2 years. And I don't know if I'm sick of compliance, but I'm sick of something. So I want to see something different in life in general. And part of that for me is going to be work-life balance. So am I going to start a garden? Am I going to take up knitting? I need to have some kind of bright idea in the next 5 years to figure out, like, what is the point of this whole thing? If it's like get money, how am I getting money? I want to make sure that my kids feel safe, stable, and secure. My goal in 10 years is to double my savings, just have a stable outlook for my life. So I want you all to think about, like, what is your 10-year plan? What is your career roadmap? And the next time we get together, or if you want to send it to the NIA mailbox, share it with us. What kind of things would you like to see the emerging leaders kind of support you through over these next several years through NIA Greater Kansas City? So thank you all for coming. That's all I have. Thank you so much to our panelists and speakers today. I hope you guys got a lot out of this wherever you are in your career. If your next 10 years is retirement, ask your job about those resources too, because it'll be important to plan for retirement. We all want to get there, but we want to be safe and stable and secure once we're there. So just something to think about, making a plan.